Welcome back to another episode. We are in New Jersey this week and speaking with Andy Wang. Andy is an action-oriented financial advisor to families and business owners. He is the host of Inspired Money Podcast, which is a Forbes Top 10 personal finance podcast, and was selected as a LinkedIn Creator Accelerator Program participant for finance. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Enrique. It's so great to be on your show.
And I've been looking forward to this. We were just chatting. It's been 5 years since you started your podcast. We connected through PodFest around your 2-year. And so it's been great to see the last 3 years evolve and you evolve in your content creation and everything you put out. But before we get into today's topic of finance, tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, sure. 24 years as a financial advisor. So I've been doing this for a little while. I've seen bull markets, bear markets. I've seen many market cycles and really started my career as a financial advisor in 1998. And I just remember in a very short period of time, I saw like full market cycles happen. Everything was compressed already. And I think that continues today. Back in 98, I saw like long-term capital needed to get bailed out. There was an Asian crisis, so big recession in Asia. And then suddenly there was the internet boom. So speculation, and then that bubble popped. So I got experience real quick. And then 24 years goes by really fast. As you mentioned, host of the Inspired Money Podcast. I can't believe it's been 5 years. So we want to focus with a positive perspective on money. And occasionally I'm a musician performing Hawaiian slack key guitar in the New York tri-state area, and have even performed in Hawaii a few times. So, you do a little bit of everything.
Well, I love the slack key part because, I grew up most of my adult life on Oahu. I enjoy the music. I enjoy what you do. And we share some aloha every once in a while together as we're commenting on each other's posts. But, finances is a thing that nowadays is catching some attention. It's looking similar to 2008. It looks like this is a cycle thing. It's coming again. I told you I just bought a pack of ground beef for $10 for a pound, right? So the implications of the financial crisis or recession, however folks want to refer to it, are already on us. There are some things that we need to be wise about. We can't scurry. And like we mentioned in the back before we got into this podcast, we was washing every vegetable and every gallon of milk that came to the house when the pandemic came. You can't get too extreme, but you have to be wise in terms of finances. So before we get into the finances thing, folks, we're going to be talking about finances, your relationship with finances, how leadership is impacted by finances, and how your leadership can impact finances. So before we get into that, what's your definition of finances? Because everybody may think it's just money.
Yeah, I'll go with a definition of personal finance, since, we all have to deal with our household finances. And that's a term that covers managing your money as well as saving and investing. It's pretty broad. It can encompass budgeting, banking, insurance, your mortgage, investing, retirement, your taxes, even estate planning. So if you've accumulated wealth, it's like, how do you want to pass that on to your beneficiaries and your heirs? But it sounds complicated. It sounds like a lot. I think it's important to just focus on basic fundamentals. If you look at the basic fundamentals, you're looking at 1, live within your means, 2, pay down debt you don't want to have a lot of debt. And three, if you can have a surplus, you want to invest some for your future, because when you invest and you make a habit of investing money, that money can grow while you're sleeping. And that's really powerful. So I'm sure we can talk more about that. But as you said, today the world is a little bit different. I mean, I tell my kids, I've never seen a global pandemic before. The last 2 years have been crazy. Uh, from an analyst or an economist perspective, also very different. We never saw global economy shut down. So it was a pretty scary time. And as we come out of that, it's like, wow, things are really growing really quickly, because compared to a year ago when things were, on lockdown or not operating properly, then suddenly it looks like big growth. But today we have a different situation, because this is the first time in my career, right? I mentioned 24 years. We haven't seen inflation like this since I was a kid, like in the 1970s, when there was oil embargo and my parents had to like alternate days to get gasoline and wait in long lines. We haven't had to deal with that, not as adults. And going to the grocery store and seeing our receipt is much higher than the previous week, in the previous month, in the previous year. Those are real realities that we have to deal with. So personal finances do become very important, because, right, if you're going to live within your means, it's tougher when your expenses are going up and your paycheck is not.
Absolutely. And, we mentioned the role that leaders have in finances, personal finances. And I love that you detailed the other different things that kind of encompass that, to the point of, hey, you're looking at future past you. How you going to allow that money or those financial gains to pass on through your family, and be appropriated right? Because sometimes there's a lot of mismanagement, not only on the personal level, but as a whole. Future finances can be jeopardized by your relationship with money and finances. And there's a lot of mismanagement. So, there's a lot of areas that we need to address, to include taxes, because that's another mismanaged area. Some people negate it and then pay the price, right? But why is mismanagement of finances so prevalent? And nobody wants to have people into their finances or their financial decisions, but a lot of it comes through mismanagement. So why is it so prevalent?
Yeah, it's not surprising. I mean, even reading the newspaper, we see TV. I mean, celebrities, they have managers who mismanage their money. There are professional athletes who are making millions, and they have a relative who's managing their finances and lose it. But you're correct. I mean, even on Main Street, the majority of us are making mistakes with our money and can do better. And if you think about it, in school, we studied English and math, and even still, we make mistakes in grammar and calculating the tip at the restaurant. So, what hope do we have with our money and finances? Most of us were not taught personal finance in school. Many people grew up being told not to talk about money because that's rude or not polite. And then come adulthood, you're just thrust into like adulting, and you're expected to just figure it out. So I don't you have to give yourself some leeway, some latitude, give yourself a break, because most of us weren't taught personal finance enough in school. You're just figuring it out as you go. So I think the key is really you have to make time for it, because the reality is that life gets in the way. Even myself, I've been in the business for 24 years. There are times when I didn't look at my portfolio as often as I should have, because I have to drive my kids to school. I have to build my business. I have to record a podcast. I have to edit a podcast. I have to promote a podcast or create a LinkedIn post. So I think that it's important to, not only budget your money, but budget your time. So earmark, once a quarter, or even if it's just 2 times a year, to review your 401k plan, to review how are your investments positioned. Do you need to make changes? We need to make time and, put it on the calendar so that you can address it. So one is learning, but two, I think just showing up and making the time for it, like that's a good start.
Yeah, I love that. Make the time. If you value something, you'll make the time, right? And there's a lot of people that we was mentioning my transition from Oahu to Orlando and the family relationship. We're talking about money relationship, but even the family relationship, if it's valued, you'll make time for it. If you value finances and the effect of finances on your life, make time for it. I love the earmark piece because if you have it down on a calendar, now it doesn't mean that it'll happen, but at least you'll be nudged towards action that will result in you having a good management over your finances. You don't have to be in it every day, but at least give yourself some time to actually take action on it. Now, relationships matter, both on the personal side, definitely on the financial side, and leaders have a huge say in how they navigate other people's money, right? Because if you're in a leadership at an organization, you're managing other people's money. But then that relationship on the personal level, it doesn't match. So, what are leaders missing in their relationship with finances, in terms of being a leader?
Well, I think that they're separate skills. Leadership is a very valuable skill. Companies are willing to invest in leadership development. That's EQ, soft skills, managing people. But that frequently doesn't include personal finance either. So I've seen chief financial officers of very big companies and very successful companies who are great at managing a company balance sheet, but they don't keep a basic household budget, or they might not be contributing to their 401k plan because they're busy as a company executive. So again, it's like even leaders, great leaders, need to invest their time and energy to up their game, right? To figure out, because you're a military guy, I'm not, but I understand that proper planning prevents poor performance. I think that that's very true with your money, and I've seen the results of those who develop a habit of investing their money early. And it goes back to those fundamentals, don't spend more than you have, and don't have a lot of debt. There are a lot of experts that talk about, you can differentiate between good debt and bad debt. But generally, don't have a lot of debt and invest your money, because that planning is important. Your future self will thank you, because if you're investing regularly, that nest egg grows over time, and quite significantly.
So leaders, if you're listening, it's not that you need to be perfect in any one given area, but you have to know where you're leading, right? Where are you leading your family? Where are you leading yourself? Where are you leading your household? Because one thing to do perfect or great at an organization, and that's all good and well, but if your own is lacking or suffering because of the inaction or unattention that you give to your own personal finances, that could hinder you. That could hinder you as a leader, because let's say something happens financially, you can't get to your job. Yeah, there you go. Now you put some things at risk. So if you're gonna do anything do it for, do it for you first, and then help that translate into your organization. I am sure that that will help. Now there's 2023 around the corner. We're closing out my podcast season. We're all gearing, after Thanksgiving, everybody's starting to think of, Christmas. You're just leaping 25 days down the road. And that those days come fast. 2023 will be upon us. So what can we improve on to ensure a good financial posture, because it's coming?
It is coming. And I think I'll speak a little bit against the grain here. I think that, tough times are coming. I think that there are some lean times ahead. If I look at the financial data, there's a lot of debate. Is the United States in a recession or not? I find that on Wall Street and in the government, they're having this discussion. They say, oh, well, a recession is a slowdown in GDP growth 2 consecutive quarters, which we've had. But then they say, oh, there are some nuances too. The job market is pretty good, so it's not quite a recession yet. But then I talk to people on Main Street and they say, this is a recession. I'm having a hard time, keeping up with my monthly bills. And I think that I'm seeing it in the credit card data. People are borrowing and using credit more to get through this holiday season. So maybe the holiday spending is looking okay. But I think come January, February, I think the consumers are going to start, pulling back a little bit, tightening their belts. And, that's not a great thing for the economy. So my expectation is that I wouldn't be surprised to see a little contraction, to see that we do have a recession. It's worth mentioning also that Europe is slowing down. I think Europe is in a recession. Asia is also slowing down. You read a lot of headlines about China and its COVID policy. They're still, shutting down cities for a week at a time, and that's impacting their economy. So we have a global recession happening, and that's all normal. That's part of the cycle. What can we do? What can listeners do? One thing that I caution is that my industry, the financial services industry, loves to create complex products and have a lot of industry jargon, which is quite overwhelming. People tend to feel that they don't know. They don't know enough. Money's not their thing, or investing's not their thing. So just keep it simple. If I can challenge your listeners to do something in the new year, it's just track your monthly spending. Don't even talk about the B word, budget. Just track, because most people know how much money they make, right? But I would say that many don't know where their money is going every month. It's like, how much did you spend on food? How much did you spend on going out to eat or entertainment? And then you can look. It's like, how much did you spend on transportation? How much did you spend on your mortgage or your rent? And how much did you spend on healthcare? Those tend to be the really big categories. So once you're tracking your spending, you do it a second month. It's human nature. You can't help but to see some trends and then make some improvements. It's like, oh, I didn't know that I was spending this much on groceries, or maybe we're going out too much. We can do better next month. And those small incremental improvements, they add up. And when you start making improvements, it allows you to set up an emergency fund or a rainy day fund. You can make plans to pay down debt where you have it, right? Pay a little extra to your car loan or to your mortgage, and then invest any surplus, as I said, that you can grow while you're sleeping. And that compound growth, investing like on a regular schedule and over time, that's very powerful. The earlier you start and the more often you do it, the chances are very good that you'll be surprised by your account balance come retirement. I've seen it. I've seen those millionaire next door. No one would know that they have surplus money that they're investing all the time. But man, you look at their account statement come retirement and you say, wow, how did that guy make $2 million? And in many cases, it didn't even require a big salary, right? I've seen teachers, I've seen, I had one client, the guy was working the printing press at the newspaper in New York City. He was an immigrant, and he never had like a high paying job, but he worked hard, he saved his money, he invested, and his account really, really, really grew because he did not live extravagantly, and he was always investing. Probably from the time that he was 30 years old, and he died at age 92. His account grew a lot in that time. So I'll just leave it at your money has two best friends. That's time and compound growth.
And I tell you, you don't realize it until that time comes, right? But the real realization happens today. When you hear this and you're listening to this podcast and you're saying, well, maybe I need to start adjusting some things that I'm doing, because the relationship with money, with finances, is a what you do, right? You could live above your means. You could live extravagantly and all the money goes away, or you can choose when you do those things, when it's appropriate and good for financial decision that is good at the time, and still enjoy both. So it's that relationship with finances that will get you through this period. I myself have considered, how much I'm going to be doing shopping this year. I don't know if it's going to go this way or that way, so I'm being conservative. These are things that you have to consider, even without saying the B word. Look at what your habits are. Look at where your money is running to, and that'll tell you and be a good indicator of the adjustments that you have to make. Now, getting poised for 23, regardless of what the financial impacts are to us individually, there are some things that leaders can do in their leadership roles to to help themselves. So what should leaders be considering in terms of finances?
Two things come to mind. One is that great leaders, I think, lead by example. So, your actions speak louder than your words. So as a leader, make sure that you're trying to do the right things, that you're contributing to your retirement plan, that you are not only planning for your professional business or company, whatever it is that you're leading, but it's take care of your family, your household. And, it's not that it's not dissimilar. It's like if you're the profit and loss statement of a business, you have the same thing for your household. And there are lessons, and your experience in one can support and help the other. The second thing is that as a leader, it's really important to have a retirement plan for your business and to help educate your employees. And it comes down to finances too, because I saw a figure that a healthy 65-year-old couple retiring in 2021 can expect to spend more than $662,000 for retirement healthcare cost. Like, people need to prepare because healthcare costs are not going down. We have not seen it going down. It just seems to increase every year. So leaders need to educate the people that they're leading. You need your employees to be retirement ready. You need them to not have to work when they're 75, right? You want employees who are energetic, who are at their prime. You don't want employees who really shouldn't be working anymore. You need to really focus on what is it that you can do for your employees to educate them, to help them, to make sure that they're contributing to their retirement plan. If they get a raise, then maybe that's a good time to contribute more to your 401k, because you don't miss the money that you don't realize that you don't have. When you get a raise, it's easy just to say, oh wow, I made more money, I'm going to go spend it. So teach your people those valuable lessons and valuable actions that will make a difference in their lives, because they do need to save, one, for retirement, but then also taking care of healthcare costs. And many companies have health savings accounts also, which is like an IRA for healthcare cost. So, it's like, provide your employees with the vehicles to prepare for retirement, and then also provide the education to get them there. And ultimately, that will come back to the bottom line of your business, because, like I said, you want to take care of your people, and you don't want a whole bunch of employees who cannot afford to retire. That costs you money as a leader, paying for their healthcare costs. And I think it's important to take care of your employees and make sure that they are set for the time when they want to retire.
Absolutely, folks. The time for leadership is when you wake up, right? And every decision you make after that, if you consider yourself a leader, is a value to you as a leader. And so, but let it start with you, right? Leadership start with you. All those decisions start with you. Set the example. Like I mentioned earlier, you don't have to be perfect, but have a plan. Be deliberate. Be invested in these areas of your life where you can actually be a leader to somebody else. Uh, we could talk finances for the whole entire day, because it's so detailed, and it creeps into most of all of our happenings during the day. And thank you, Andy, for taking this time to educate us on some things in terms of not only the financial status of where we are now, but the actions we can take in the future. Now, if someone wanted to get a hold of you, you mentioned, portfolios, you mentioned clients, you do this for a living. 24 years, it's a long time. So you're very savvy in what you're doing. So how can they contact you or get a hold of you if they want to engage you in those services?
Thank you, Enrique. Yeah, this is my family business. I work with my brother. My company, Runnymede Capital Management, was actually founded by our father, Sam. So we've been doing this for a long time, and working with individuals, families, business owners, either to do retirement planning and to help with their investments, but we also work with business owners to assist in the setting up of a 401k retirement plan. So thank you for listening. You can find me at runnymede.com. Runnymede is hard to spell, so just go to inspiredmoney.fm and you can find me, and check out the podcast. One thing, Enrique, I just want to leave one parting thought with everyone. I think with leadership, great leaders understand that in order to grow, you're going to make mistakes. You have to make sure that with your money, you're willing to make those mistakes too. I think often with money, we're afraid to make the mistake. So there's a tendency to do nothing. So if you're a leader and you've experienced making those mistakes and having a willingness and building that muscle, right? That you're going to make mistakes along the way. You have to do that with your money too. In order to grow, in order to get better, you're going to make mistakes and you have to forgive yourself. Allow yourself to stumble. That's just part of it.
Oh, thank you for that. And then grace definitely is required when you're talking about money. You're going to make some great decisions. You may make some poor ones, but it is part of the learning cycle. So, yeah, give yourself that latitude to be able to make those mistakes. Don't make them so that you can't recover, but by all means, allow yourself to make some hiccups here and there because it's gonna happen. It's just part of that. Thank you, Andy, for all you do, and we're gonna make sure to put all the links so you can get a hold of Andy and his services, his family-owned services, which is I love that piece, and love what your dad Sam created, so that you can actually invest your time and energy in it and make it a family business, folks. Today has been a great day of financial talk, but put it into practice. It's one thing to hear about it, another thing to know that, hey, something's happening on my end and I'm doing something about it. And today's episode is sponsored by Triad Leadership Solutions and Superpass, which are powering our website and app. If you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to subscribe and let us know by leaving a comment right now. We're always looking for new ideas and guests that we can add to the show. So if you know someone or have a topic that you would like featured on the podcast or want to sponsor our show, we love to hear about it by emailing us at triadleadershipsolutions@gmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week when we have another person dissecting leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.